Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spilled Popcorn, where we share the latest and greatest about movie and TV news. We spill the tea, we get real with ya. It's gonna be crazy. With me, as always, your co-host, Mr. Camtasia.
Hello, glad to be here.
Glad you're here with me. And I am Curlington, your butler slash co-host, here to walk you through WandaVision right now. How you feeling tonight, Cam?
Man, WandaVision. Just the name of that show, it evokes goosebumps because it's getting interesting. It's getting real interesting. We got one episode to go, and this episode, not what I was expecting, but it was still a spicy meatball. I was very pleased with it.
Spicy meatball is right. It's what's funny is it was exactly what I was hoping for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you kind of mentioned that last time, didn't you?
Yeah, like I didn't know any of like the details that it would come about, but it really was everything that I was the energy and like just the pathway of the story is what I was hoping for. So I got what I wanted.
Yeah, and I think lots of questions answered, which is good. I think it we'll get into it a little bit more, but I think it really clears the path for a great finale because there are so many questions that we got answered this episode, which was nice.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that what did you say? It evokes what when you hear WandaVision? Goosebumps. Yeah. Perfect. Because I remember when they announced WandaVision, I was like, well, that's going to be trash. You know?
Right. It's a weird name when you don't have any context whatsoever, you know?
Yes, and quite arguably their most creative project to date. Yeah. So bravo MCU. They did some crazy things and some incredibly crazy things in this episode. I don't think we can waste any more time. What do you think, Cam?
No, I think it's time to go.
Let's punch in right away. It's time for
the unwrapping.
That's right. This is the same piece of plastic.
I love it.
I want to keep it.
It's basically our third co-host. It's just like it lives. It's a part of the show now, and I will miss it whenever this is over.
No, I'm gonna save it. We've got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up in 2 weeks.
That's right. We're right on the precipice.
That's what's going to go down. So we can't waste any time because this episode wasted no time. End of the last episode, we have Miss Wanda Maximoff in Agnes's basement, and we learn that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness.
The name's Agatha Harkness. Lovely to finally meet you, dear.
The twins are missing. The twins are gone. She's in this decrepit basement. Actually, it's kind of well maintained in a witchy kind of way. And we immediately see all of the tricks that Agatha can do. She kind of unveils her master plan in a way that's not monologue-y because she's doing magic while she's and torturing Wanda while she's doing it, and kind of unveiling that Agatha needs answers as well, which is exciting because in the last episode for her reveal, you would have thought that she had all the answers and she doesn't. So there's still more to uncover. It's insane. So what Agatha does is she basically ties Wanda up in the air in magic, and we see her past. We see Agatha's past in 1600s Salem time, that she was like pretending to be this harmless witch, but her witch coven decide that they're going to take her out because she's practicing too dark of magic, which is quite insane. What do you think about that scene, Cam?
I was excited. I think I always wonder with the MCU being as mainstream as it is. I have mentioned it a couple of times, but the question is always like, how weird are they going to get? You know, like how far are they willing to take this? How deep into the comic book lore are they willing to go? So when the episode opens up and it's like Salem, Massachusetts, 1693, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's go.
Yes. And I'm one who's like pretty squeamish about stuff when it gets like evil and dark like that. Like I can't watch the new Sabrina Netflix series. Creeps me out. But this I was all for. It was very much the perfect merge of that evil, dark magic world and the MCU's magical universe that they create, which I want to talk about different kinds of magic later on if we have time for
Absolutely.
it. So we get this flashback, and then all of a sudden Agatha is trying to dissect Wanda's mind on how the hex, the anomaly, came to be, and she walks her through what I like to call the Boulevard of Trauma.
I like that. It's a very apt description for what goes down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what we do is we have Agatha walking Wanda through some big moments in her life. And what we also get is a retcon of the MCU Wanda Maximoff. Because as we were introduced to Wanda, she was introduced as an experimental mutant. Her powers were given to her, when in fact, as this is unveiled through the 4 different kind of vignettes that we go through, is that she had those powers all along, and Hydra basically boosted her powers to make her as powerful as she is, which is a great, if you have to retcon something, it's great. It really is a great storyline.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it's good they're drawing the line. You know, in the comics, the Scarlet Witch backstory gets retconned numerous times for various different reasons. So I think this is like you said, if you're going to retcon something, do it for a reason. This is a great reason, and overall, I don't think fans are going to lose their minds too much over that.
Indeed. I think they should be right on board. And if you're a toxic fan, stop watching right now.
Get
Go away.
out.
So we got trauma point number 1. We're in Sokovia, where she's a little girl. It's so cool how they do this, how it's Wanda, and she literally plays the part of herself as a little girl. They round about that camera in a 360 way. So perfect, so fun. And she opens up the suitcase from her mama and papa, and it's all the shows that we've been seeing. So he's like trying to sell these as his job. You know, it's a very poor, poverty-stricken country, this Sokovia. And so that is where we get the cues on every episode. She's walking through her mind the things that she loves the most. And let me tell you right now that I loved the Dick Van Dyke Show. I watched it when TV Land was old shows. And let me tell you, the accuracy of their description of the Walnut episode is so on point. How they describe shenanigans being silly but a little bit scary. I need to meet the person who wrote that dialogue, because I've been thinking that for 30 years of my life.
Yeah, the writers were really flexing their muscles this episode for sure. It's like it feels like almost like this might have been where the idea started and then they worked backwards. I don't know for sure, but the writing was so strong that you're like, oh man, they're really in their element right now. They're in their comfort zone.
Yes, indeed. So we go through this. Of course, Tony Stark's missile, not fired by him, but it's a weapon. He sells it to the military around the world. It comes in, it hits, it doesn't explode. And instead of being a dud, as we've been told previously, it was likely Wanda using a spell to make sure they stayed safe, her and her brother Pietro. So then we go into round 2, trauma point number 2. We see Wanda. She's going in through her anti-terrorist group, and she's being tested. She's a volunteer to see what kind of things they can do to help combat military and all that jazz. So she comes in, and is it the space stone in the
it's actually the Mind Stone.
It is the Mind Stone.
It is the Mind Stone. Yeah, she gets up close and personal with the Mind Stone, which connects a lot of dots, right? Yeah.
Because then when you think about when Vision and their connection together, boom.
Yeah, is she naturally drawn to the Mind Stone because it's a part of her, and how is she able to? We talk about the various storylines in the comic books that they set up with Wanda and how she comes to have her powers, but here, they make sense of it by including the Mind Stone, which is really an interesting way to go about it and enriches this story a lot, as we'll get into.
Excellent. She gets knocked out in a very similar way that all the episodes go. There, she edits the video, probably not even on purpose. It's just part of her power. It's just insane. She's rewriting history. We talked about the Nexus being. They can literally rewrite different dimensions and realities. So that's all coming into play. That speculation from our crumbs last week. So that's exciting. So then we move on to the 3rd trauma point in the Avengers hangar, which is super exciting because it's a little bit more familiar. This is the Wanda that we most recently remember, her and Vision just talking about life, talking about love, and we just see like their love start to flourish, which is super exciting. There's a lot of stuff in the dialogue. It's a lot of relationship building among other things, but Agatha is just dissecting as she goes along on trauma point 3. And then we get to trauma point 4. We unlock the door that we go into Sword, and Wanda just wanted to see Vision. She wanted to bury him. She wanted to have closure, and director Scummy Hayward is dissecting him in his lab, and he is just being a total jerk to her. And the question is, was it on purpose, or is he just a turd, an absolute turd?
For sure, on purpose.
Right.
He's not to be trusted.
I mean, it seemed very pointed. I'm in that camp as well, and we see that Wanda really just wanted to have that closure, and she ended up just like roasting all those guys. But then she didn't take Vision out of there, as Director Hayward had said, at all.
Yeah.
She rolls out. She goes to Westview, New Jersey. She's got a little blueprint of the house from Vision, of the house that he had landed and purchased, and she explodes with trauma and builds the universe. And that's just, I don't know, is that like halfway through the episode at that point, or is that toward the end?
It's just pretty close to the end. Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty close to the end because then Agatha's like in the studio being like, all right, I've got this all figured out. And then she disappears.
Bingo. And then Wanda chases after her. She's like, okay, where are my kids now? And sure enough, they are strapped to this like gooey, almost like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers, this purple goo strapped around each of the twins' necks. And she's like, you can't be trusted. You're so evil, coming from one of the most supposedly evil witches that we've seen, which is all the hypocrisy, even though I still think Agatha is going to be somewhat of a quasi ally in the future to all of this down the line. That's the unwrapping.
Yeah. Pretty awesome episode. I mean, I think what I was expecting as we get into the butter, I guess we're in the butter section now, but what I was anticipating, I guess, was like a knockdown drag out. I really thought like, okay, everything's converging on the Agatha Harkness residence. We got Vision there. We've got, Monica Rambeau there. Wanda's there. It's about to go down. But it looks like that's going to be saved for next episode now, because I don't see how we could avoid any sort of altercation at this point. It's really at its peak right now.
Do you think we get through WandaVision without an all-out knockdown brawl?
No.
No,
I know. So, yeah, I mean, I think there has to be. It's going to come to blows right now, because Wanda, before she didn't know where her kids are, Agatha was like, I've got your kids trapped in my bewitched basement, is basically what she says. Well, now they're like in legit danger, and Wanda can see them.
Right.
And as we talked about before, I mean, we know Wanda's there. We kind of questioned where Wanda's head was at heading into this episode. Now we know she's 100% focused on getting her kids back. Vision is focused on that same goal, and Monica is focused on helping Wanda at whatever cost. So, I mean, it's about to go down. I mean, I would say at this point it looks like Agatha's pretty much outgunned. But that said, we had a little mid-credits scene, didn't we, Kirk?
We did. We certainly did. This mid-credit scene was something that just like shook me to my core. Because when we left the Sword headquarters and she didn't have Vision like in a satchel or something, I was like, wait, that means something else has to happen. And sure enough, we see in her grief, she created him. Yeah. And that's why we see such a different side of him, of course, rather than the more rigid know-all be-all. And because of that, his body was left up for grabs, which Director Hayward did for the launch, and they're creating this alternate Vision. Tell us more about this version of Vision. Do you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the comics, there is a white Vision who comes about. Once again, West Coast Avengers, which has been referenced way more than I thought it would be in this show. Kind of an obscure series of comics, but a good one, because Scarlet Witch and Vision are very much involved in that group. But comes to be in the comics, if I can remember correctly, at some point Vision gets, much like with Sword, captured by the government, dismantled by the government, and Hank Pym, Ant-Man, Giant Man, is a super genius, obviously, the Pym particle, all that stuff, and he's rebuilding the Vision. Now, what's interesting is, in the comics, the way that Vision gets his personality is from the superhero Wonder Man, Simon Williams. They use his brain waves and things like that to create Vision's personality. So now what's interesting is there's this love triangle here where Simon Williams loves Wanda, Wanda loves Vision, and Vision kind of is Simon Williams. And so there's this controversy here, but basically when Vision gets rebuilt, Simon Williams, Power Man, or Wonder Man's like, no, he can't have my personality. I'm not doing that again. Like, I know that it's betraying my good friend Wanda, but like, I felt violated by that whole thing, and I felt like it was not with my consent. And so what we end up with is this pale white, totally emotionless, devoid of all feeling Vision, which breaks Wanda's heart, obviously, and is a game changer. He ends up eventually reconnecting with his emotional side and coming back to terms with it, but there's a period of time there where we've got like a true robot Vision.
Holy moly. Which that's probably, even though he's kind of blue, maybe he'll be a little bit whiter when he gets out of his cage.
I don't know if he was just like sealed up in something, but he looked like whitish, bluish. But yeah, I mean, he looks the way that he does in the comics for the most part.
Insane. Now, is there a different Vision? Is there also an anti-Vision in the comics?
Yeah, so there is anti-Vision as well. I don't think that's where they're going with this, because it's almost like the white Vision is the real Vision, weirdly enough, and this other Vision only exists within the Hex in this alternate reality. So I think what's interesting here is that when Vision was exiting the Hex, we all thought he was falling apart because in the real world his body is dead and decayed. But the reality is that he was falling apart because his only being is within the Hex. So that's why he was being, deteriorating, because it was causing a reality kerfluffle, for lack of a better word, I guess. And so that's the reason for it, which is a really interesting twist.
I think that is the best word for it. And what was also interesting about this entire episode, the last we saw of Vision was him hit the Malcolm in the Middle microphone and fly off because he was going to go take care of business and win his wife back. Yeah. So he's like in the air right now, trying to get to Wanda and hasn't gotten there yet. We could presume that he's going to arrive seeing Agatha with the kids, Ivanhoe strapped up, and Wanda ready to kill. Do we also see White Vision entering the anomaly during all of this? Is that what's going on, you think?
We're going to get some Vision on Vision violence up in here, man. It's going to get bonkers. I think White Vision's for sure coming in and to end it. I think in a way, let's save it for the crumbs, I guess. We'll speculate on what that battle will look like. But yes, White Vision versus, Hex Vision, that's happening. Wanda versus Agatha. It's going to be interesting to see where this all shakes out and, if somebody else comes into the fold. But I want to talk about some of the questions that we got answered in this episode, I think. Yes. So you mentioned Wanda being a, witch-like being prior to anything being done with Hydra. I think that's huge. I think the fact that Wanda is in touch with the Mind Stone is huge, because at least we can assume a large portion of her power came from the Mind Stone. So what kinds of abilities does that afford her? It clearly affords her the ability to manifest Vision out of thin air and to build this whole reality. But what else, comes with that? So that's very interesting. Fake Pietro, right? We get this at the very beginning. This is interesting to me, Kirk, because what Agatha, she explains her whole thing. She's Agatha's doing this monologue, for lack of a better term, where she's talking about magic, and she's like, listen, I can do some things. I can do transmutation. I've been training for 1,000 years, and I can do all these different things, but I can't do anything like what you're doing, Wanda. What you're doing is like next level, totally advanced.
Let's just say sorcery on autopilot.
Yeah, of that exactly. Yeah. Like you're running illusions on top of illusions, miles away from here. So she's setting up that like what Wanda's doing is absurd, even for a witch like Agatha, who we know is extremely powerful. But what she says is that necromancy was out of the question for Pietro, because the real Pietro's body is in a different country and full of holes, as Agatha says. So what she says is that Pietro has been her eyes and ears, and that she's the one who's sort of controlling it in the same way that Wanda is controlling everybody within the hex, but that would imply, unless you think I'm wrong here, Kirk, which is totally up for debate because it's all wacky, that he's a real person that, you know, Agatha has taken over and not just something that she's pulled out of thin air, at least as far as I can see it. So that's a question of, okay, is he, you know, just some random person who was either in Westview or in that area that Agatha took over and they just made it Evan Peters for a fun little cameo for the fans? Or did she pull him from another reality? And he really is the Fox Quicksilver who's now a puppet for Agatha.
Yeah, I think it has to be the other reality.
It better be, dude. I will be legit ticked off if it's not.
That's too much of a red herring for Marvel to do.
Right? They're too smart for that, right? They're too smart to like make that mistake, right?
That's too huge. They would have been better off with like a lookalike than anything else.
Yeah.
Because it's too much. Or, you know, getting Aaron Taylor Johnson back to take on that role. That'd be their only way they could have done it. It has to be Agatha can grab from other realities, whether and hers was intentional, obviously, but we know that she's powerful. She can do like one thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it has to be.
Yeah, I sincerely hope so. So the other thing we figure out is basically that Vision had this plot of land, like you mentioned. Wanda did not steal his body, which is probably the biggest revelation we've had this whole time, because we're all operating under the assumption that Vision is this dead puppet. Well, now we've got two Visions, and they're going to come together, presumably. But also, we get Agatha's speech at the end where she's like, I know who you are. You know, this is chaos magic.
Yes.
And that means that you are the Scarlet Witch, which was the first time we have ever heard Wanda Maximoff referred to as the Scarlet Witch in the series. So, landmark moment. We've all been calling her Scarlet Witch. We know she's Scarlet Witch, but now it is official. MCU official.
Yeah, it's cool because they're also like giving it deeper meaning than that's just her monocle superhero name. Like that has like a deep root in magic,
she's like,
obviously.
She's like a mythic being, you know? Yeah. She's like some sort of like unicorn or something, right? Like people know who the Scarlet Witch is. It's not just some like nickname. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, they make it, which makes it more like a prophecy of like of witch magic, you know, to come about. And she's horrified that she's living through it. Like Agatha is scared, legit scared, terrified of Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. So here's a question for you before we jump into the crumbs. This is something I've been pondering. What is Agatha's, like, what's her motivation? Best I can figure is she is just a really powerful magical being and was the most powerful magical being in the game for a long time. And so when this started happening, she was like, whoa, I need to figure out what's going on because this is a threat to me. Like, is that the extent of it, or is there something more there?
Let me answer your question with another question. Did we hear, and I watched this episode 2 times through, and I think I missed it both times. Did we hear Agatha say how she found Wanda's anomaly?
She basically just said that she like felt it. I think
felt it.
That
okay,
she
cool.
like she knew, like could sense or something. She alludes to the fact that she like became magically aware of the fact that there were all these spells going on.
That's what I thought I heard. It's like blink and you miss it. So that's why I was like, I was assuming it. So with that, can you restate your question?
Yeah. So why is she here? Why does she care? And why is she going to such great lengths to like get this out of Wanda? Does she just feel like she's a threat or what? And a threat to what? I mean, Wanda doesn't even know who Agatha Harkness is, you know?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's pure curiosity and pride that she wants to be the best. That we saw her wipe out all 7 plus her mom in 1693.
Yeah,
so she's like, who's this? I'll kill them too. And then she got there and she was like, holy cow, what is happening?
Now she wants the secret sauce.
Yes. And I think she wanted the secret sauce, and now she just wants to kill her because she's like,
She wants to be the top of the mountain. She wants to be the top of the food chain, which, okay, right. I'll take that. I'll take that. I feel like there has to be some other source at play here.
Mephisto.
My wife keeps saying there's no way they wrap this up in the last episode. I think she's got a valid point. I mean, we've got a lot to cover in 50 minutes. Could they really introduce new characters at this point? Could they introduce another villain? Or are they going to leave us with the most massive cliffhanger in the history of cliffhangers and say, see you guys at Doctor Strange 2? Is that going to happen?
In 2022. Let's talk about the speculation. Let's talk about these crumbs here. So I want to talk about all the characters, just like you said. Are we going to get new characters? So the Showdown, effectively, we've got, I think we can include the kids because they're powered.
Yes.
And they could definitely at least help in some regards. We've got Wiccan and Speed.
Yep.
We've got Wanda. We've got Agatha. We've got Vision. He's on his way. We've got White Vision.
Yep.
Who am I missing? Oh, Photon.
Yeah.
Monica's on her way in some way, right?
She's there, and then there's Pietro.
Yes. So
which does he even count? Like, would Agatha be able to battle and control him at the same time? I don't know.
I don't know. Or does she just like lay him out right away and then we drop to 7?
Right.
So either way, we've got 8 people.
Yeah.
8 powered beings that could come in and have a massive monumental fight for 50 minutes. That sounds insane. We've seen it done before with even more characters, though.
For sure. But here's the thing, man. Like, if on paper, Agatha is way outgunned.
Yes.
I mean, it's not even close, right? I mean, just her against Wanda is game over. Unless, I mean, I know she's got her kids in a chokehold, so that gives her some leverage. But, like, White Vision isn't necessarily Team Agatha either. He's Team Sword. So he's trying to accomplish, I guess, the same thing as Agatha, which is to eliminate Wanda, presumably. Right. But they're not like buddies, they're not like on the same team.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about this showdown. It's like, who is the threat?
Right.
Who needs to be destroyed, or is it all just miscommunication and things need to be sorted out instead of just kill everybody, which is what it seems like right now.
Agreed. And I think so if we think about, we've talked about Immortus, we've talked about Mephisto, is there going to be another party that joins the fray and is like, check it out, I've been the one pulling the strings the whole time. I manipulated Agatha to come here and mess with Wanda. I manipulated Wanda to start this whole thing to begin with. That would have to be an Immortus level kind of person. Maybe Mephisto has the ability to do something like that. I don't know. And then all of a sudden Agatha becomes Team Wanda because they need to, destroy the more common evil. That's a possibility.
Right.
I'm still strongly saying Doctor Strange has to show up in this last episode. I just really think he has to, for a number of reasons. We'll talk about the different magics and why, again, I think that Doctor Strange has to show up. But what they're going to have to resolve is 2 conflicts. One, the Westview Hex has to end. It has to end here. It can't go on. So that's one. But after that, it's not like the government's just going to be like, alrighty, Wanda, you took a whole town hostage. Everybody, you like took over people's minds and created a massive threat to people's way of life in the United States. So basically a domestic terror attack. Like, she's going to be an enemy of the state again. So, I don't know that they certainly doesn't seem like they would be able to resolve that in the next episode.
No, not at all, because she's breaking the Sokovian Accords once again. I think your previous mention of Kang, the Conqueror, walking in,
man, that'd be a doozy. That'd be a big one.
I'm following that thread hard ever since you dropped it. I really feel like that we're going to get Jonathan Majors, because while Jonathan Majors is a big deal right now, he's not necessarily an A-list actor.
No.
Because I think if you drop Christian Bale in here, it would just be like, what? And I even feel like if Doctor Strange comes into this situation, it's not necessarily large enough to need him yet, right? Because there's no clear enemy, so why would he have to come and correct anything? But
sure.
if there's all these other strings attached to Agatha's intentions, and other people following along, again, all the things that you've said, I think it's got to be in that direction. Immortus,
but
Kang.
You just provided the best segue ever for our conversation about the magics. So the question that I've been getting from everybody who watches this show, who knows that I'm like very into this, people have been texting me, what's with the magic? What are the different magics? What is the significance of chaos magic, etc.? So let's talk about that, because I think also is what gives me confidence in Doctor Strange showing up. Okay. So in the comics, there are basically two established forms of magic. There is chaos magic, which is wielded by very few people, and in fact was only originally wielded by like the elder gods. This is like pre everything. And there was an elder god named Chthon, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I always read it as that in the comics, but basically he was the god of chaos. He at one point closes up chaos magic in Wundagore Mountain and is like, it's gone from the world. We don't need any chaos magic because that's like dangerous stuff. Well, Wanda is like born on Wundagore Mountain, and so that's one of her origins, is like that's how she comes to be this Nexus being capable of wielding chaos magic. But then the other type is order magic. Okay. And the difference between the two is chaos magic is what Wanda does, creates reality, transforms reality, rewrites reality. And order magic is the opposite of that, which is to restore reality, restore order, which is why it's called order magic. This is the type of magic we see Doctor Strange messing with. This is that kind of magic. And while there are two main categories of magic, I think it's pretty clear in the comics and in this show, actually, that everybody's flavor of magic is different, which is why Agatha has the ability to do some different stuff. She can cast hexes and do different incantations and whatnot. Her magic is purple. Scarlet Witch's magic is red, and Doctor Strange's is like yellow and sometimes blue, So even though there are two main categories of magic, order and chaos, everybody has their own take on magic, so it's not really like binding. It's not all confining. But okay. So what I'm thinking is, since Wanda has jacked up reality within this dome in a major, major way, that's going to be on Doctor Strange's radar, because he is like the protector of their realm, with regard to reality and time and things like that. And so he's going to be like, whoa, what's going on? We need to get this thing back to normal. And so maybe that's one way that he comes up and makes this whole thing go away. And it never happened. Maybe he even like spins time backwards a little bit to make sure it never happened. I don't know, but I feel like that's one reason he might show up.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, one thing is to remember also is Chiwetel Ejiofor is Mondo.
Yes, Mordo. Mordo. Sorry. Yeah.
And he's roaming the earth.
He is. That's a good call. I forgot about Mordo.
Could he end up here? Could he end up as part of this play that also gets us Benedict Cumberbatch?
We know Mordo is anti-chaos magic. He's not having that. He's the equivalent of like the ultra religious person who like takes things way too far, Yes. Man, that'd be wild. A Mordo sighting, because he is still out there. You're right.
Yeah, the last we saw him was in like a post-credit scene after Doctor Strange, I believe, of him like going and taking people out, or he was making some kind of deal with someone. So, yeah.
That could get
all
wild.
Right, I buy it. Benedict's in the next episode. You got me.
So I think that's a possibility. Man, do they explain the Evan Peters thing, Kirk? Or do they leave us hanging?
I think it gets explained. I think Evan Peters gets explained. I don't think you can walk away without explaining it.
But how do you explain it without tying the X-Men?
I think that's how we get it explained.
Man, that would be... You realize how big that would be?
Yeah.
To not just introduce the X-Men, but to introduce the multiverse via the X-Men would be enormous.
Through WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah, which is pretty bold, but we live in crazy times. Live in crazy times. So why not? Everyone's at home. They were going to see this anyways. A bigger question is like, how does this tie into films that should have already been released, like Black Widow? Is there anything like that in there, or is it completely different, a different storyline running that's going to connect later?
It's a good question. I keep thinking about that, and help me remember this, because I can't, since COVID, everything's fuzzy. But I feel like the original release schedule was Black Widow, then I feel like Black Widow, Shang-Chi,
Yes.
and Eternals were all supposed to come out before WandaVision.
I thought, yeah.
And Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep. I thought that WandaVision was at the very bottom of 2020. Maybe, yeah.
Well, so like I think,
2021.
I think Black Widow, Eternals, and Shang-Chi were all supposed to come out in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to come out like November 2020. And then WandaVision was supposed to come out like either December 2020 or like early 2021. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what this ties into or what this is going to mess up.
But as we know, Marvel has released films for a long time that weren't linear.
That's true.
Now's their chance to do it again since
Right.
Since Infinity War and Endgame are over. Now's their time to play again a little bit with that. Obviously, they can play with whatever they want with this crazy storyline of the multiverse and everything, which I think we have confirmation is there. It's just which direction are they going?
Yeah. And you know, does this tie into Spider-Man too? You know, like is the multiverse effect going to go from WandaVision to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and also into Spider-Man?
I think it absolutely does. I think they bring it all together because if you remember the Halloween episode, you have the cut after the commercial, the spider,
You're
and
right.
then you have the dancing balloon guy that had the
Yes.
Spider-Man eyes. It's absolutely a nod. I think it's all coming. The last thing I want to tell you is something I texted you was that Fantastic Four, Reed Richards or Doctor Doom. I watched that episode back because my wife was catching up with the series. She's all caught up now. When Monica says, "I've got a guy in astrophysics," and then we meet Major Goodner. I still think there's a guy. She says guy.
She does. She says my guy. She says my guy. She does. I got to meet my guy over the ridge.
And we haven't met the guy yet.
No, you're right.
So maybe he's the last person we see at the end of episode 9 or in the mid-credits scene or in a mid-credits or a post-credit scene. Who knows? We have that option now.
That's possible. It would be wild. It's possible. There was another theory I heard on that actually from my sister-in-law today, who heard it from somebody else. Could the aerospace engineer be Talos, the Skrull?
Oh my gosh.
Because Monica and Talos like hit it off when they were younger, and we know that Talos is still on Earth from Spider-Man Far From Home. And would
very much part of S.W.O.R.D.
Yeah, and would maybe know how to deal with reality stuff.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
It could be. I don't know, man. So to recap, my bold predictions for next episode are Doctor Strange. I'm like 90% confident in that. I will be shocked if he's not. Lesser confident about X-Men, but I still think it's possible that they do something there. And maybe Immortus / Kang. I think those are my bold predictions. I'm not prepared to go Fantastic Four yet. I'm not prepared to go anywhere else, but I think that's where I feel somewhat comfortable.
And I am prepared to do all of those things because it's going to be absolutely insane. Guys, we'll check the scoreboard next week, the scorecards, the scoreboard to see who was right, who was wrong, what is going to come of episode 9. Are they going to surprise us with a 3-hour episode when they're telling us it's 1? Who knows? We will see you guys next week on Spilled Popcorn. Don't forget to check out our regular podcast, Popcorn for Breakfast. Thanks so much to Rhetoric for all of our original music. You guys are awesome. We'll talk with you soon.
Peace.